last night, because there were no fanfics for me to read because AO3 was down, I went to sleep before midnight, and I think that probably says something about my sleep schedule that I'm not going to read into. Hi, I'm Claudia, and I am done with being ashamed. Ashamed of what, you may ask? Ashamed of being a mildly obsessive fangirl. Now, mildly might be a slight understatement, but that's what we're going with, because it makes me feel better about myself, okay? Basically, like a week ago as I'm filming this, I turned 21 years old, and also came to the realization that that list I made when I was 17 of things I wanted to do before I was 21, I've done less than half of, but we're not going to talk about that, okay? Really, what I realized is I'm too old to be ashamed of my fangirl tendencies. Like, yeah, I spend most of my time reading fanfiction or watching TikTok edits. Why should I be ashamed of that if it's what I enjoy, okay? I've spent so much of my life pretending that I'm not obsessed with TV shows that I'm now at the point where I'm like, who cares if people know I'm obsessed with TV shows? Who cares, honestly? And I started thinking about this like just before the new year, and I was like, no, maybe it's still cringe to be like a fangirl, maybe I shouldn't. And now I'm like, I'm 21 years old. Who cares what I like? Really? Like when I was at school, I never would have done this because I was terrified of being made fun of. But you know, I'm 21 years old now. Who cares? So yeah, I'm Claudia, I'm 21 years old, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm obsessed with the silly gay firefighter show. And just before we start, I need to say, I don't know what I'm about to say in this video. I planned to film a video about the ongoing fanfic I'm writing because I just broke 50,000 words, and I was like, that's a good milestone to make like a video about. But then AO3's gone down. So we're doing this instead. Who knows what I'm about to say? Also, I might be slightly more unhinged than normal because I haven't read any fanfiction in over 12 hours. But we'll see how it goes. Now, my fangirl tendencies probably started when I was about 13 or 14. My family finally got Netflix. Like, we were so late. It was like 2018, 2019. We didn't have Netflix yet. But we got Netflix, and that meant I was able to binge watch TV shows, which was just like the start of a downhill slope, okay? Also, we figured out how to get like Sky apps on tablets and stuff, which meant I could watch whatever I wanted on Sky whenever I wanted. I didn't have to like wait for my dad not to be using the TV, which was dangerous looking back. Like that probably didn't help. And then when I was 15, we went into lockdown, and suddenly I had all this time on my hands and a world of TV shows I had never watched before. The first time I ever like binge watched something was in half term in lockdown, so this is like May of 2020. In 3 days, I watched every single Marvel movie that existed at that point. I think it was like 21 films in 3 days, because I never watched any of them before. And I was like, you know what, why not? And I later realized that probably didn't help with the whole binge watching thing. Because then in September of 2020, when I had technically gone back to school, so I was at school every single day, in the month of September, so in 4 weeks, I binge watched the entirety of Grey's Anatomy, which at that point was 16 seasons. That's a lot of TV to watch in like 3 to 4 weeks, especially because I was at school. I was in year 11. I was supposed to be preparing for like my fake GCSEs or whatever they told us we were doing at that point. But no, I spent all of my free time, so like break time, lunchtime, watching Grey's Anatomy on my iPad at school. And then I'd come home and I'd spend all evening watching Grey's Anatomy because I didn't have much homework. All the homework we were being set was just revision. So I would just say, I'm revising, and actually be watching Grey's Anatomy. So I watched Grey's Anatomy in the September. I think October I watched Criminal Minds. And then in November I found 911, and that ruined the rest of my life, I think. 911 is my favourite TV show, just full stop. I love it so, so much. And when I found it and started watching it, season 3, it was either airing or it just finished airing in the UK. But I actually found it through watching 911 Lone Star first, which had its first season out, so I think it was being promoted more because it was like, this is the first season of this new show and whatever. So I watched that first, and then I watched 911. Don't do it that way. Watch original first. If you're gonna watch 911, watch the OG first, okay? But I binge watched the first 3 seasons of 911, and I got to, in season 3, the buddy kitchen scene, which if you know, you know. And I watched it and I thought, hold on, why was there tension there? Why was there like sexual tension between these 2 characters there? Oh, I need to keep watching this now. And since then, I've just been obsessed. By that point, I'd already been using Wattpad for like 3 years, so immediately I was deep in the fanfics, okay? I didn't actually move to AO3 till I was 18, but when I did, you best believe the first thing I did was look at buddy fanfics. But back then, I was still only 15. I didn't really use social media. I wasn't allowed an Instagram account until 2020, and I was only allowed one because we went into lockdown. Like, that's how sheltered I was from most of the internet. Most of the stuff I knew about the internet was through Wattpad, which thinking about it now is terrifying. But back then I didn't have a Twitter account, so like I wasn't getting any updates as to what was happening with 911 like at all. I would just like once a year see it start being promoted on Sky and think, oh okay, new season's coming, better watch that. That was like the extent of my knowledge. But at the same time I was also watching other shows. Around this time I also watched Chicago Med for the first time. I didn't watch the other two, which I know, kind of bad of me, but I only watched Chicago Med, and for a while I kept up with it, but then I kind of like dwindled off. I think it was around probably like season 5, I want to say. Also, you're gonna remember when I'm talking about seasons here, UK were typically like a year behind at this point. Now we've caught up, like we're like 2 to 3 months behind, but back then we were quite often a year behind on American shows. But as kind of lockdown progressed, my family ended up buying more streaming services, so then we had Disney Plus and we had Amazon Prime, and I was suddenly like, oh my god, I have so many options. So suddenly I was watching Grey's Anatomy and Criminal Minds and Bones and Castle and all of these wonderful shows, and I was like, oh my god, I enjoy this. And I slowly got more obsessed. 911 was very much like the core of my obsession, but like the other shows were there as well. Until eventually, and I think it was August of 2022, I finally made a Twitter account. And it took a while, but eventually I got onto like the 911 side of Twitter and I started getting 911 updates for like behind the scenes stuff. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But I still waited for it to come out in the UK to watch it. I was waiting for all my shows to come out in the UK to watch them, because I was like, how else would I watch them, you know? I mean, I knew there was ways to watch them, but I was like, why bother with that? I can just wait, it's fine. But then 911 season 7 episode 4 aired, Buck, Bothered and Bewildered, and I woke up to the news that Evan Buckley had canonically kissed a man. I freaked out. Okay, I was like going insane. I was like, how do I watch this episode? Like, how am I doing this? Because it's not coming out in the UK for weeks yet, and I need to see this. I was seeing clips all over TikTok because I was on 911 TikTok, so I was seeing edits, and I was just kind of scrolling through spoilers before, but I actually wanted to see this now, and I was like, what do I do? And so I found a way to watch episodes before they are technically out in the UK, and that's all I'm going to say about it, okay? So we all know what I'm saying, right? We're all on the same page here. And eventually that evolved to the point where near the end of season 8 of 911, after I'm not going to spoil it, but we all know what happens in season 8, episode 15. If you're a 911 fan, you know. I woke up to that news and I realised, actually, I want to watch this live. So I found a way to watch 911 live at 1 a.m. every Friday morning. It's technically on Thursday evenings in America, but that is 1 a.m. every Friday for me. So I watch it at 1 a.m. every Friday. And I've done that for almost a year now. Obviously we had like the summer break, but I've done that for every single episode since season 8, episode 16. Is it like the healthiest way of dealing with this? No, because I am exhausted by the time it gets to 1 a.m. Especially right now because I have uni on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, so I have to get up early for 3 days in a row, and then Thursday I'm staying up late to watch 911, and I am so tired. But it's worth it for 911, okay? And it's actually worked out really well because the week I'm filming this is the 911 crossover event.
Okay, this is so not important, but I'm editing this the day after filming, and last night the stills came out. I'm sorry, they're so in love. We're getting Buddy in episode 13. I'm calling it right now.
So 911 and the spin-off 911 Nashville are having crossover episodes one after the other, which typically I'd only watch like the first half. I normally don't stay up for Nashville because like it's not like my favourite at the minute. It hasn't had enough time to really grow on me, I think. So normally I watch Nashville the day after in the morning, but because it's the crossover, Buck and Eddie are in the Nashville episode, so I kind of want to stay up to watch both, and that's worked out really well because this week is my reading week. I don't know if other countries have this, but in the UK at universities, sometimes you have like a reading week, which is like halfway through the term, and you just get a week off with no lectures, and you're supposed to like work on assignments or whatever. I had an assignment due last week, and my next assignments aren't due till April, so I don't know why we have a reading week this week, but I'm not complaining because it means I can stay up till 3 a.m. with no repercussions. Kind of. So yeah, that's right, this Thursday, well technically Friday for me, I will be staying up till 3 a.m. to watch the 911 crossover event. I probably won't go to sleep till more like 3:30 because I typically scroll on Twitter for a bit to see everyone's like reactions to the episodes. The problem lies in the fact that I have to be awake at 7 a.m. on Friday, so I am getting maximum 3.5 hours of sleep. I also might be recording another video on Friday, so if that happens, I might be genuinely going insane. Just look forward to that, I guess. Also, I hope AO3 doesn't go down again then, because it's really hard for me to stay awake with like nothing to do, and the thing I do is read fanfiction. I mean, typically I fall asleep somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m. because I'm up reading fanfiction, but last night, because there were no fanfics for me to read because AO3 was down, I went to sleep before midnight, And I think that probably says something about my sleep schedule that I'm not going to read into. I mean, typically the only time I fall asleep like before midnight is when I have uni the next day, because I force myself not to read fanfics because I have to be awake at 6 a.m. and I actually want to get some semblance of sleep. But for that to just happen on a Sunday night, yeah, AO3 had to be down for that to happen. Speaking of my sleep schedule, on Tuesdays I have to wake up at 6 a.m. for uni because I have a 9 a.m. lecture and I've got to like travel to uni. I'm a commuting student, so I have to wake up at 6 a.m. Technically I don't have to leave till 7:30, but I like to wake up slowly, I guess. So I give myself an hour and a half to like wake up, get dressed, eat breakfast and be out the door, which I feel like isn't that bad. But anyway, on Monday nights, The Rookie airs its new episodes in America. Unfortunately, unlike 911, The Rookie is on at like 3 a.m. my time. I'm not staying up for that. I have to be awake at 6 the next day. So instead, as soon as I wake up, I watch the new episode of The Rookie, which has some unexpected consequences. I've only started watching The Rookie like this year, because last year I wasn't watching The Rookie yet while the season was airing. I only started watching it in like April when the season was almost over. But this year, I'm actually watching it like the day after it airs in America. But I'm watching it as soon as I wake up at 6 a.m. So am I really absorbing everything? No. I'm literally lying in bed with my phone in front of me like this, being like, what is going on? It's too early in the morning. So then when I get home that night at like 5 p.m, because I have a full day of lectures on Tuesdays for some reason, I sit and watch the episode again and actually like fully absorb what's going on. I could just watch it after uni, but that means I would have to like make sure I don't see any spoilers on TikTok. And I see a lot of spoilers on TikTok for The Rookie because like I love a good Chenford edit, okay? But also what's really funny about this is some of my friends at uni are also fans of The Rookie, but they don't watch it early in the morning. They wait till they get home. So I get to come in and they're like, is it a good episode this week? And I'm like, yeah, it's alright, or yeah, it's really good, or it's not as good as last week, and I just get to give them like a vibe based on my early morning watch. They also are all big fans of 911, and I'm like the person with the 911 knowledge because I'm so obsessed that I think about it all the time, and I'm like follow all the Twitter updates accounts and stuff, so I just get to tell them stuff. I'm also the only one of us who watched it live at 1 a.m. They wait till the next day, like most sane people. I'm not sane, okay? And speaking of not being sane, this week is the One Chicago crossover. If you don't know, One Chicago, 3 shows, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med. I used to watch Chicago Med back in the day, kind of fell off a bit, and then I watched Chicago PD at kind of the same time. I only got through like the first 4 seasons, I think. But then a couple of years ago, April 2024, I finally sat down and watched all 3 shows all the way through in order. If you Google like One Chicago watch order, basically it's not in like perfect order. Sometimes you have like 2 Fire episodes and then 3 PD episodes and then a Med and a Fire and a Med and a Fire, and then you have like a couple PD episodes. It's very weird. But at this point, I am now in deep, and I am in very deep for Upstead, which was one of the Chicago PD ships. Now at this point, both of those characters have left the show. I'm not going to talk about their exits because I'm just going to get mad. But for this week's 3-part crossover, they're coming back. Jay and Haley are coming back as guest stars. When I heard this news, I squealed. I am unfortunately not staying up for it, mainly because it would mean being up till like 4 a.m. or something stupid, and unfortunately I can't do that because the next night I've got to stay up for 911. And also because it's so important to me that Jay and Haley are coming back, I will want to like pause, rewind the episodes and all that kind of stuff, which I can't do if I'm watching them live. But it's happening this week and I'm so excited, like genuinely. I'm having a great week this week. Like, it feels like everyone's doing crossovers this week for some reason. I don't know what it is about this week, but like the Rookie's doing a crossover with Dropout, which was completely out of nowhere, but I'm so excited for. I'm not like a massive Dropout fan, but I have seen clips on like TikTok and stuff, and I think they're really funny. So I think it's gonna be a great episode of The Rookie. And then obviously we've got the 3-part One Chicago crossover with all 3 shows crossing over, which they like to do at least once a season. I think they've already done one this season though, like right at the beginning. But I'm not going to complain. Jay and Haley are coming back. I'm not complaining. And then 911 crossover with 911 Nashville is happening on Thursday night. So everyone and their mother is doing a crossover this week, and I have no idea why, because it's not even the end of the season yet. Like, it's all just like kind of like a mid-season crossover event. I mean, 911 last week did come back from a break because of the Winter Olympics. The Rookie hasn't break for the Winter Olympics because they were on Monday, so it just didn't affect them or something. I don't really know the details. I just know I got to watch The Rookie every week. And One Chicago, typically for One Chicago, I just wait for it to come out in the UK because all of my favourite characters have left their shows at this point. But once I had Jay and Haley were coming back, I was like, I need to catch up. So we're still in mid-season break in the UK. I think the most recent episode that came out was episode 7 for each of the shows, and we're not coming back till April, so that's too long for me. So I've caught up on all the episodes I've missed, and from my googling, the last episode aired on like the 4th of February, so I think One Chicago also went on break for the Winter Olympics but also had like an extra week's break last week. I don't know why, but they're coming back this week with the 3-way crossover, so who cares? I literally finished catching up like an hour ago this morning, so I am fully caught up. I am ready for this 3-part crossover. Something that the One Chicago crossovers do really well is it's not like each part of the crossover is mainly that one show that the episode's on. It's like completely intertwined. So yeah, the first episode of the crossover is fire and will probably open with fire, but the med people and the PD people will quickly show up, and we'll have some scenes that have no fire characters in at all, because that's just the way they do their crossovers, and I really love that. It means you really have to watch all 3 episodes to understand the full plot line of the whole crossover, which I understand probably some people don't like, especially if they only watch one show, but I love it. So, and with the 911 crossover, I assumed, and I think a lot of people assumed, that it would be like the Lone Star crossover back in, I think it's season 4 of 911, or is it season 3? No, it's right before Buck Begins, so it's got to be season 4. But basically with that crossover, on 911 we got like a typical episode. Just at the end, Buck, Eddie and Hen were like, oh, we're going to Texas to help with the wildfires, and then most of the crossover happened on Lone Star because it was season 1 of Lone Star, so I think they wanted people to watch it. But from the teasers we got last week, it looks like it's going to be a more One Chicago style crossover, with both of the characters being on both episodes. Like, obviously we know at this point they've announced it that Buck and Eddie are going to Nashville, but it seems like in the episode we're going to be seeing like typical 911 stuff on 911 and 911 Nashville stuff on 911, and then when we switch to 911 Nashville we'll still see the original 911 characters back in LA. I might be wrong, obviously the episodes have not aired yet as I'm filming this, but if they do it like that, I think I'll really enjoy it more than I enjoyed the Lone Star crossover. And technically this isn't even Nashville's first crossover with OG 911, because back in the space emergency we had like a brief crossover with like the woman who works at the call center, who I always forget the name of. Not Maddie, the Nashville version of Maddie, like you all know who I mean. But if they do it the One Chicago way, that is very exciting, and it's also like a new thing for 911, because all of their past crossovers have been like, as I mentioned, like at the end of the episode you find out one of the characters is going somewhere and then you see on the other show. Like we had that with Dr. Odyssey last season, which Dr. Odyssey never officially got cancelled, and that is like something I think about too much. Like, can we get just like a word on what is happening to Dr. Odyssey, because it was never officially cancelled, but it was never renewed. It's just kind of in limbo, I guess, and it was so good. It only got 1 season and it was so good, so don't even get me started on Dr. Odyssey. I could talk about it for so long. But for the crossover we had last season, it was just Athena showing up to the cruise ship at the end of an episode, and then it moved on to Dr. Odyssey for most of the crossover. And I say crossover, it was just Athena, so it's not like a major crossover, not like the One Chicago crossovers where literally everyone's everywhere. Just had to delete a bunch of stuff because I ran out of storage on my phone, so hopefully everything still looks the same. What was I talking about? Nashville, that's what I was talking about. So I think, at least I thought, at the end of the episode of 911, Buck and Eddie would go, oh, we're going to Nashville for the firefighter games, because we knew it was just them going, and then they'd go and we'd have the whole crossover on Nashville. But now it seems like we're not, which honestly I'm kind of down for. We know Buck and Eddie are helping out with like a car crash just from behind the scenes stuff we've seen, so hopefully that goes well, and hopefully it's like a fun crossover event. That's all I want. We know there's these like firefighter games things happening, which was originally the plan for the 911 Lone Star crossover, fun fact. Also, like that water slide emergency from right early on in Nashville, that was supposed to happen on Lone Star. Like, they're reusing a lot of old Lone Star ideas for Nashville. But obviously with these firefighter games happening, that means hopefully Buck and Eddie interacting with the 113, the Nashville firehouse, which would be a lot of fun, I feel like. Please, I just want someone to assume they're dating. That's all I want. That's all I want from this, okay? It would be so funny. And also, we know in episode 13 is going to be the buddy-sode, as everyone's calling it, and they're going to be in the desert. Buck, we think, might get hurt. Like, so much is happening in episode 13. Something big's going to happen in episode 12, right? Also, we got the synopsis for episode 12, and it seems like something is happening to Philip Buckley, which I'm not mad about. I don't like either of the Buckley parents, so if something bad happens to Philip Buckley, I particularly don't care. Also, we're tying with the episode title, which is called Dads and Cads, so we think something's happening to Philip Buckley. But as I just mentioned, my phone's running out of storage, so I need to stop yapping. Basically, I've decided that I can be a fangirl as much as I want. I can obsess over TV shows as much as I want. I can ruin my sleep schedule for TV shows as much as I want, because I'm 21 years old, so who cares what anyone thinks anymore, right? And maybe it's a little cringe, but like, do I really care about what other people think? Kind of, but like, I shouldn't. So I'm trying to train myself not to care about what other people think. But because it's the end of the video, I have to do the awkward and kind of cringy YouTuber thing and ask you to like the video if you enjoyed it. And also I make a bunch of other videos about TV shows and fan fiction and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you feel like that's something you might enjoy, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. There'll also be links to my TikTok and Twitter accounts in the description if you want to follow me over there. On Twitter, I mostly yap about 911, but on TikTok, I post new fanfic related TikToks literally every single day. So if you feel like that's something you might enjoy, feel free to follow me over there. And also there'll be a link to my AO3 profile if you want to read any of my fanfics. So yeah, I've been Claudia. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye!